Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy, Mythic J. We just had season 35 of Champions Arena wrap up, so I'm making an update to my tier list. There's some huge updates in this one. So let's just get right into it. So as you know, the tier list, I'm taking rosters from the very best players in the game. So every time, basically, I've worked out the formula, but it's going to be 8 division winners. And then I'm going to add like 2 teams to always try and average 10 teams as the sample for the tier list. So normally the extra teams are going to come from some of the biggest winners of all time who haven't won that time. But I'm going to be very strict with that as well. So this time the teams that are featured in the tier list are these the 7 division winners. Says Bew, T-Train, Quinn. This player from Anka, I think I call him XCX because there's like a car and X's. Spark Spear, Lorak, Hwanzhang, and then this player, the change player had won like 3 in a row and gifted him a win, so I didn't include him. So it's those 7. I included Pyre Husky, who had been dominating the division until Quinn showed up. He's in my guild, so shout out to RCL. He lost to Quinn this time, but beat Quinn last time in a major upset. So I included Pyre Husky. He also runs like pretty unique lineups. Now I included 2 monsters from Division 6, Punchy and Ginny, who keep losing to Lorak. So I wanted to kind of track how this division evolves. I think it's the hardest division in the game, whereas like Division 2, 3, 4, and 5 are much weaker in terms of spending. The newer servers are spending like way more, and these middle servers, I think they have it pretty easy. I'm pretty lucky, other than a few exceptions like T-Train and Quinn, who are winning a bunch. So anyway, so yeah, with that settled, another thing I'm doing here is I've started. So the players that I'm interested in, I'm watching basically how all their matchups flow, and then I'm kind of color coding the teams that did well, and then bad coding the teams that didn't do well for each of these. There's some like sampling bias and stuff like that, but I still think it'll give me a decent look into like which heroes and which comps are like looking pretty strong, and which are like pretty not looking that strong. And right now I'm finding that a lot of Lilith based comps are like quite weak, and a lot of Oda based comps are also like quite weak and not fully optimized, whereas the YSS comp and the Ninnerzag Leonard comp, the Ninnerzag Artemis, the one that I talked about, like those two are looking very strong. And then for some of the weaker groups, I'm not even tracking how they did, because the competition isn't even that strong anyways. But I am trying to give it kind of a thorough look. And finally, the last thing I'm doing, I added a fun little Amaterasu counter. So because everyone uses Amaterasu, I decided to map the score. So this is like kind of a proxy for your museum score, your investment in cubes, like all that kind of shit. And so for reference, my Amaterasu score, I think it's like a 3559. So almost 3600. But this Degorger Bugor account 4077. T-Train, so Division 2 is like kind of weaker and spends less. 3935. My guildmate Papa is at 3726, so big deficit. Pyre Husky in Division 3 was 3992, so around T-Train's level. But Quinn showed up 4159, that might be one of the highest. Division 4 and Division 5 are weaker in spending, 3824, and then Division 6 is like whale territory, so Lorak is at 4046. Lorak might be like the best player in the game when you factor in spending and everything. Jenny, who can't beat Lorak right now, is at 4163, which I believe is the highest recorded number, so very close to Quinn, despite being like way later. Spark Spear, Division 5 is only 3785, and then Hwanzhang in Division 7 is 3957, and Punchy is 4015. So basically it shows you like kind of how much the top most successful players are spending in the group. So that's something that I tracked as like a one-time thing, just for funsies. Here I am, and yeah, let me just check my Amaterasu. Very humble, 35.59. Yep. Okay, and finally, I might have buried the lead here, but we're gonna get into the tier list, and I made a major update here. So for this tier list, I decided. Um, Shout out to Reddit commenter. He said I had too many high tier heroes. I agree with that. So I decided to group D and F together and move every tier down. And so basically, you know, everything became one lower. So everything I had S from the time before became A. And now I'm kind of trying to work out which heroes here belong into the S tier. And so I've decided I want, like, there's 58 heroes in the game right now, I believe, and I decided I only want 10 at a time into the S tier, meta defining. So I'm going to share all my numbers with you, and let's start like getting into this tier list. And I decided, since we're starting from scratch, the best way to do this actually is to do it by class here. So let's go ahead and do that. So basically, this is, you know, lineup data that I've recorded over the past, like, you know, it actually stretches back even beyond, but like right now it's cut off to the final three, because from season 33, that's when they required every player to add one more team to their rosters, which raised the usage percentage of a lot of heroes actually. And I remember the OG ones, like the original percentages. But like starting with tanks here, right? So first of all, let's define like what we consider S tier. So what another thing I'm going to be doing from now is, actually before that, let's talk about blended. So the blended score here is, I'm taking I have a new formula, so I decided there's some variance here. So I still want to weight the past results to some extent. So I'm taking 70% of the most recent season, 20% of the season before that, and then 10% of the season before that. So they're all weighted like slightly, and then this is the blended score. And so I'm gonna go ahead and give Nin here a, sorry, let's go alphabetical, and then let's go tier. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and give Nin here an S tier, and the reason for that is she's a newer hero, so her usage, you know, kind of started off low to start, but now that she's anchoring the Leonard comp, so first of all 10 players ran her this time, and then she's just part of like very strong lineups. Like her power is looking very strong, and I'm gonna kind of I've been doing this for a long time now. You know, I've been tracking heroes from like very long ago, like season 30, like season 28. I'm like a pretty strong player myself. I think I have like a good handle on different power levels. So from now on, if I feel like there's definitely a split in power between like two heroes, I'm just gonna be pretty aggressive about bucketing them differently. And Nin, I feel like is one of the strongest heroes in the game, and I think her usage is like kind of reflecting it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put her in the S tier. I'm also gonna put YSS into the S tier. In general, I mean, for the tier list, I would like ideally one SSR and like one UR of each of the classes. That's not always gonna happen, but YSS is a hero that historically has had like 90% usage rate in basically every season. Like even if I drag back to like, I don't know, like season 30 here, like this is my season 31 tier list, and YSS was being used like, you know, 82% of the time, even when there were less rosters. He's always been kind of one of the best heroes in the game, and he has a low ISS cost. So YSS and Nin are going to define the S tier for me here. That leaves Leo and Odin in the A tier. So I think they both make a lot of sense here. So, you know, Leo is almost creeping on the door of S. Odin is 63%, so his usage keeps dropping. Like historically, he's been much higher than this. He has very low ISS cost too, and I'm actually going to go ahead and bring Poseidon up to the A tier as well. So, you know, they all kind of make sense. They're all within the same bucket. And then Odin and Poseidon have much lower ISS costs, and they all have kind of proven themselves in the meta. And then finally, Typhon is also going to get an A tier, and that's because he's at 70% usage. You never want to build his ISS, but I think 70% usage. He's also showing to be quite strong when mixed with Faust and Lucifer. That's something to keep an eye on. I think Typhon's, pretty chunky boy. I think he's pretty solid. So let's go ahead and do that. And of this group, I would say the only one that's kind of aggressive is putting Poseidon into A already, but he was using 7 out of the 10 of the last lineup, so he's just going to be there. I think Hercules, so 48%, if we set the line here, Hercules with the low ISS cost, like this is going to be what like a B class hero looks like. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then Anubis at 29% usage and a much higher ISS cost. I mean, that's basically what a C tier hero looks like. And then Marduk, I'm deciding whether he's going to be a D or a C because he's a UR cost. The UR heroes, I'm more strict on because they cost double the resources, so they have to be like much stronger than their SSR equivalents to hold the same places. But I think if we go through it, I mean, I think like around 10 to 20% usage is what's gonna, separate the tiers out here. So like Odin, the only reason he's staying up is because he's been pretty good in PvE and he's historically had like a higher number than this. But we look at like, I would say to simplify it, I mean, A would be like the 70 to 80% usage. B would be like I guess like the 50 to 60% usage, like something like that. So I guess Marduk would go into C. I think we can feel okay with putting Ardio, Athena, Gaia, Hades into the same tier here, which, I mean, it's a very bad letter grade score, but these are all heroes that I consider unproven, basically. RTO, Athena, yeah, unproven. Like, we don't know how good they are until they're, someone actually builds them and uses them. I actually put Gaia in that same group, and then, Thor's basically trash. So I think we see decent balance across the tiers. If we were sticking, to straight percentages, I think you could almost argue that Odin, Poseidon, and Typhon can all actually go into B as well. But we'll leave it like this for now. I'm pretty happy with the tank lineup. Okay, with that, let's move to the fighters. And to be honest, the fighters are like kind of tough here. So like, I want to quickly pull some historical usage just to give some context on how some of these fighters were in the past here, because I do think this matters due to variance. So like Oda here, very high usage rate, but Lucifer actually kept a pretty solid usage rate too, and so did Freya, and so did Kieran. So if I go back here, sorry, one second. If I go back here, so like Oda here, so 91% usage, 100. So basically, I'm gonna go ahead and give Oda an S tier. The reason is I'm super biased, but also I feel like his best comp hasn't been found yet. Also, I mean, 90% usage basically means he's being used 9 out of 10 times, like almost every time. But he's also the best PvE damage dealer in the game, like versus the Sinful Abyss and stuff like that. And that counts for crystal income and stuff, and it's very important. So Oda, while acknowledging my bias, I'm going to give him an S tier. I think if I give him an S tier, I have to give Lucifer an S tier too. Lower ISS, higher blend. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then I'm really struggling with Kieran, Freya, Susana, Artemis. So basically, these heroes are definitely one second. Okay, so these heroes are definitely a cut above everything else. So right here, I've sorted by blend. Okay, so I've sorted by blend here finally. Okay, so I mean, you see here, they have like 30 to 20% jumps on these two. Wukong, his usage isn't really spiking that much, and he's not really anchoring teams that, so far, he hasn't been really anchoring like dominant teams so far. So I'm okay with giving him a B for now. But you can see here, like as you go down, so Medusa made a big jump. She's starting to be quite present in the meta. She's also good for PvE, so that's why she might go to B. But Mm-hmm. Yeah, Paulo too is someone I kind of. We'll worry about these later, but my point is, when you sort by blended, these guys are clear examples of A tier heroes. I've always kind of included. I've always considered Kirin as like similar to Susanoo in strength, and Kirin and Artemis too have been like very close to each other, like historically, and then so has Freya. And like part of me, because I don't want the tier list to just be like, you know, all of the best URs in the game. Like ideally, I would want one of each class into the S tiers. I think like Oda is for sure an S tier, um, because of his PVE, but also because of his PvP usage. And then Kieran and Freya. I mean, so Freya just jumped to 90%. Kieran was at 100 times 2 and then just dropped to 80 recently, but he also has a low ISS cost. I mean, he's cheaper than Susanoo and he has an 8% edge on blended. He's also like a part of every green comp. I mean, I think the argument is a lot more to put Susanoo at S eventually than to bring Kieran down. So we're gonna go ahead and bring Kieran into the S tier, and uh, we're gonna bring Freya into the S tier, and we're gonna bring Susanoo into the A tier where he clearly belongs. And same with Artemis as well. I kind of like this because a lot of, Artemis and Susanoo, Artemis and Lucifer are like two of the OG heroes in the game. So these two, I mean, they've definitely distinguished themselves. I think putting all three of these into B is pretty good. Oberon is at 50%, which means the green comp, the Leonard comp, I mean, it hasn't completely dominated. I could see Oberon moving to A in the next edition. I think he almost has an argument for A right now, but I'm just gonna stick to the existing kind of criteria. So it looks like B is kind of covering, that 50%-ish usage rate zone. Like Cam, for example, is falling off, but before she was being used more, whereas Oberon and Wukong are kind of moving up. Medusa is very good in PvE as well. She's up to 50%. I have a lot of people who cry about me hating on Medusa, so I'm gonna bring her up to a B tier this time because she is good at PvE, and it looks like she's being mixed with Oda a lot. So we'll see how that goes. Epona stays at a C. Apollo, his usage isn't really going up. He might just be being outclassed by other fighters. I mean, I hate to do it, but I'm gonna leave him at C. I think Loki is also a C, because he has some niches here and there. I think Arky's also a C. I think Hanzo's, yeah. I mean, C is called potential, right? So he definitely has potential. I know several of my guildmates who are very strong players have a high opinion of him. So I think I'm reasonably okay with this. Hanzo's also like very new, so hasn't been built yet. If I was gonna look through this, I mean, which ones kind of don't belong? I think this is like reasonable, as long as you don't take like C and D to be like kind of failing grades, which is what they would be like in the American education system. Maybe I need like a Z tier or something, right? And then just go Z, S, and then A, B, C, F. I don't know. Anyways, I'm happy with this organization, so I'll go ahead and fill those out. I just want to say before we move on to Mage, I mean, I really am considering a change here in the names, like make the Z, S, A, B, C, D, because I don't want people to have the wrong idea. No, but then we get further from the Lord's light. Okay, we'll leave it like this. Okay, let's move on to mages here. Let's do that. Okay, So here, let's sort by blended again. So Amaterasu is just gonna be an easy S tier, and I do think she is um, definitely in a league of her own compared to Prometheus. So she's gonna be S. Prometheus has the same kind of parameters as Oda, but the difference we're gonna give them is one is Oda has a although Prometheus came out later, but Oda has like a higher historical usage, and then Oda is much better in PvE, so I'll give him the edge there. And then also Oda doesn't have a dominant, grade above character like Amaterasu dominating him or cucking him. Lilith is going to go into A tier as well, even though she's not looking that strong. Um, I guess at the thing is I don't own either of them, so I can't really tell which is stronger. But I'm like pretty sure Prometheus is stronger. Um, the Lilith lineups aren't performing that well either. We have Horus as well, who isn't in the list, but Horus is someone that I would put into the A tier as well, because as you see here, there's no other mages worth investing in. Neff and Gabriel staying at B is fine for me. Persephone at potential C, yeah, I like that. I like that. So A, Prometheus. I'm trying to think, does Lilith belong? No, I mean, I think at 84%, even though like I have this really gut feeling that Lilith isn't very good, and her lineups are performing quite weakly. I think like based off this, I kind of have like no choice but to keep her here. Mirasaki, I'm gonna leave at D, unproven. GM, I guess I'll give a D as well. Cleopatra, I think is garbage. Like despite the rework, I think I'm going to give all of these heroes. The thing is like based off the usage rate of Persephone, I can see that physical damage is like really bad in the meta, right? Otherwise, like she would be used more like she used to be. I think she had like a higher usage rate back in the day for sure. She was like, um, yeah, she was at least like 18% blended, 20%, and then she just kind of fell off the face. Maybe because the magic comps are more dominant. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, if I put her at C, and then GM, I mean, I've seen some people use them, so I guess I could put them as unproven. I think Titania might have a niche. Maybe as a Nami, but probably not. I mean, these heroes have just like never ever been used. I keep at least fixating on Titania as like someone who could theoretically be very annoying to physical units. Maybe she's just bad. We'll just go ahead and leave her an F for now because Persephone is also like if Persephone was a B, then logically I could see moving up Titania up to a D, but like yeah, I mean it's just really grim for mages. So let's go ahead and add these in. I mean it's just kind of sad looking at all the mages in the F tier. I mean they just clearly need a buff here. I'm pretty happy with how this tier list is going overall though. Finally, this leaves the supports. So first of all, the 100% usage guys are just going to instantly be S tier here. And then I think historically, so it's set we bring back up to A. She's basically always been an A. Naga is very close to an A, but it looks like we have a logjam here. She's going to be brought up to a B. Okay, so like let's clear up this logjam a bit. So I have a really tough time with Nua here. So I've always really considered Idun, Hela, and Faust to be very similar in power level. So I know Idun has spiked like right now, but and she's really good. I mean, she has like a niche, but historically, I mean, if you look here, I mean, Cassandra has fallen off recently, but like these have definitely been a tier above. And then like Iset has always been very strong A, and then Idun, but like Faust and then like Hela have been like kind of similar. Although I guess Idun has always kind of been maybe outperforming a bit. I'm not like I think Morgan and Western Queen are definitely better than Idun. So I think Idun's closer to Hela and Faust than she is to like Western Queen. So I'm not like super comfortable bringing her up into S. So we're gonna leave her at A. His set is like very clear A here. Like Faust, Hela, very clear A's. And that leaves Nua, and Nua's like really tough. So first of all, her usage rate wasn't always the highest. Right now, she's finding a lot of play in Prometheus comps, which are strong but not like goated strong. Her usage rate is really high. She's also used um, the in PvE a lot as well. Like I see her a lot. Um, I feel like she's like a mainstay kind of staple in the meta, and I do think she's better than Idun, even though the usage rate makes them look similar. I mean, you can even say her ISS is cheaper. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Nua into S tier as well, even though I don't really want to. So that means that 8 out of the supports in the game, 8 out of 14 of the supports in the game are this high tier, but like I don't really see what I can do. I mean, these players are picking these champions even though they know they can't, like, even though they know they're skewing the resources. So I know I've given you advice in the past to split your IW 600 materials and build like one of each class. These players, like these high-end players, know that they should be doing this and they're still spamming the supports. I think like mages are just very weak, and I think supports are just very strong. So Naga is going to be a B. Aladdin, he saw his usage drop a little bit. Maybe the Aladdin Amaterasu comp is not as strong here as the regular one. Let me see if I have any of them marked green. So yeah, I have T-Train marked green. Because a lot of times they're using the Aladdin as a pure replacement for the Western Queen. He does require the full IW 600. I'm gonna go ahead and leave him at B, even though there's a logjam here, because I do think the ability of being able to replace um, uh, the Western Queen and use her somewhere else is like very powerful. I'm gonna continue giving Dionysus B, or should I? I'm not seeing him that much in the Sinful Abyss comps as much as well. Let me just do a quick review of that. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and leave Dionysus at a C. He's not being used that much in the Sinful Abysses. Like not, I mean he's decent, but he's not like being used that much. So C is, so this is like potential versus unproven. Joan, I mean, another thing about Joan too is like, this thing about Joan is, first of all, her usage dropped since the roster's expanded, which is kind of weird, but yeah, I think she definitely has potential, and the fact that like certain players are swearing by her, I think we go ahead and give her a C grade. Unproven versus potential. I mean, I think she's like, 2 out of the 6 players are taking her on average like every time. So that's tough for me to give a bad score. Alright, so this is it. This is the final tier list. Horus, whose icon isn't here, I would put into A tier right now because of the shortage of mages. This is, it's kind of sad how all the mages go down here, and the lowest support is actually a D, who's Aphrodite. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this list overall. So hopefully you enjoyed the update. And yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. Appreciate your comments and feedback.